Hi there, it's Martyn Sadler here, the editor of Rugby League Express. It's Tuesday afternoon. We're just looking back to the Magic Weekend and looking at this week's issue of League Express and some of the news stories that feature in the paper this week. It was a great weekend at Manchester over the weekend, and I thought the outstanding performance was probably given by Wigan, but Warrington came very close behind them in the way that they beat St Helens. And of course, everything about the Magic Weekend is covered in League Express. Some fascinating stories that emanated from the weekend. We spoke to, for example, John Bateman, the young Wigan star, about his feud with Jamie Peacock, and we've got some fascinating stuff from him about how that feud started, and no doubt it'll be ongoing. We've got various people calling for Elliot Whitehead of the Catalan Dragons to be picked for England in this autumn's Four Nations tournament. We have the RFL saying that they would like to keep the Magic Weekend at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, but given the proviso, though, that building work on it next year may preclude the RFL from going back there. So in my column I suggest that we ought to be taking it perhaps to Newcastle, to St James's Park, which I think would be a great alternative to the Etihad, because of course Newcastle is a great city to visit, and I'm pretty sure that a two-day festival of rugby league up there would be very popular with supporters, and so we'll see whether that really actually comes about. We also spoke to Danny Brough about the Huddersfield Giants' next three games, which where they're going to be playing St Helens, Wigan and Leeds in three successive matches, and Danny's saying what a tremendous test that's going to be for the Giants' current run of excellent form. Rangi Chase we spoke to as well after the Magic Weekend, who admits to being deeply frustrated about the current state of play at Salford Red Devils, but he's confident that the spirit is still good at the club and that ultimately everything will come good, as hopefully it will under Iestyn Harris. I also pay tribute in my own column in League Express to Lee Centurions, who got their 14th successive win at the weekend when they beat Doncaster at the Leigh Sports Village, and we congratulate them, and no doubt this weekend they play at Sheffield against the Sheffield Eagles, and they'll be going out for an out-and-out record of 15 successive wins. We also spoke to Sean Loughlin, the captain of Wigan, who seemed confident that he'd probably be back for the game against Salford this Thursday, although it now seems that he probably won't be. Perhaps he was being a little too optimistic about what might happen. We also have a story about St Helens star player this year, Luke Walsh, who we hear may well be going back to the NRL next year if you can find a club. He's feeling a little homesick, we think, although I think St Helens are very, very anxious to try and ensure that he doesn't go back. But if he does, we understand that Saints might even make a bid for Michael Dobson, the ex-Hull Kingston Rovers player, who's now, of course, with the Newcastle Knights and not getting into their side most weeks. Carl Ablett we spoke to, who talked about Wigan's tactics in quite an interesting way in the Magic Weekend game between the two teams. We spoke to Wakefield captain Danny Kermond, and also it's very interesting to note that the Albert Goldthorpe medal this week, we've got an out-and-out leader now, and it's none other than Travis Burns, the Hull Kingston Rovers standoff half, who was shot into the lead with 16 points at the halfway stage of the competition, just 2 points ahead of Kevin Brown of Widnes Vikings. And I think it's fairly obvious that those two were two of the real star players at the Magic Weekend. In fact, those two players come into the League Express Readers poll this week, because we ask you who was the outstanding player of the Magic Weekend, and we pick out the 7 players who were the game stars in League Express this week, and those guys were Elliot Whitehead of the Catalans, Kevin Brown, Travis Burns, Michael McIlorum of Wigan, Mark Snyde of Castleford, Danny Brough of Huddersfield, and Stephen Ratchford of Warrington Wolves. So if you want to have a vote in that readers poll, just go to the website www.totalrl.com and you'll find the poll there. And finally, the one regular feature in League Express is the On This Day feature, which looks at this day in rugby league throughout history. This week it was May the 19th, and if you're a Huddersfield or Wakefield fan, or even a Dewsbury fan or a Hull fan, this day should mean a lot to you, and you ought to get League Express to find out precisely why. Believe me, you'll really enjoy reading it. Thanks very much indeed, and enjoy your rugby league.